If you're a white belt and you feel exhausted halfway through every round, this isn't about your cardio. You don't need to run more. You don't need to lift more. What you need is to stop wasting energy. Today I'm going to show you how to roll in a way that lets you last longer, stay calmer, and actually improve using the same principles elite competitors follow. Jiu Jitsu isn't about doing more. It's about doing less, at the right time. Most beginners don't struggle because they're weak or out of shape. They struggle because every second of the round feels urgent. So everything becomes tense. Every grip feels critical. Every movement feels like it has to work immediately. That mindset alone will drain you faster than any hard roll ever could. When you first step onto the mat as a white belt, your entire nervous system goes into overdrive. You perceive every position as a life or death situation. Your training partner moves to pass your guard, and your brain interprets it as an emergency requiring immediate and total response. This constant state of perceived crisis keeps your muscles tight, your breathing shallow, and your energy expenditure at maximum levels. You're essentially running a full sprint when you should be jogging, and then you wonder why you can't make it through a full training session. The reality is that most white belts have perfectly adequate cardiovascular fitness and strength. What they lack is efficiency. They haven't yet learned that Jiu Jitsu is a game of energy conservation as much as it is a game of technique. They treat every moment like it requires maximum effort, every exchange like it demands their full physical output. This approach guarantees exhaustion regardless of how fit you are. Core principle. Here's the shift that changes everything. Energy is a limited resource, and once you spend it, you don't get it back. Coaches like John Danaher, Rafa Mendez, Caio Terra, and others emphasize that high-level jiu-jitsu is about efficiency, not effort. The goal isn't to win every second of the round. The goal is to spend energy only when it solves a problem. If your movement isn't fixing something, it's costing you. This principle separates beginners from advanced practitioners more than any single technique or physical attribute. Elite grapplers understand that their energy is currency, and they spend it wisely. They don't invest effort into movements that don't produce returns. They don't squeeze grips that aren't controlling anything. They don't thrash around hoping that activity itself will create opportunities. Think of your energy like a battery that drains throughout the round. Every movement, every muscle contraction, every moment of tension draws power from that battery. Once it's depleted, you're done. You can't think clearly, you can't execute techniques properly, and you certainly can't learn anything new. The round becomes pure survival instead of productive training. What makes this especially important for white belts is that inefficiency compounds over time. If you waste energy in the first 30 seconds of a round, you'll be slightly more tired than you should be. That fatigue makes your technique sloppier, which forces you to use more strength to compensate, which makes you more tired, which degrades your technique further. It's a downward spiral that ends with you completely gassed while your training partner is barely breathing hard. How to roll with less waste. Let's talk about how you actually apply this when you're rolling. First, stop squeezing by default. Squeezing should come after control, not before it. If someone can still move freely, squeezing harder won't help. It just burns your arms. The most common energy leak for white belts is premature squeezing. You grab a choke and immediately crush with maximum force, even though you haven't established proper position yet. You grip the collar and strangle it like you're trying to tear the fabric, even though that grip isn't actually controlling your opponent. This approach exhausts your grip strength within minutes and accomplishes nothing. Instead, think of squeezing as the final step in a sequence. First you establish position, then you create the correct angle, then you remove space, and only then, when everything is set up properly, do you apply pressure to finish. This sequencing allows you to use far less force while achieving better results. Second, slow down your reactions. You don't need to respond instantly to everything. Pausing for half a second often saves you minutes of energy. Your opponent starts to pass your guard. Every instinct tells you to explode immediately, to do something, anything, right now. But that panic-driven response usually manifests as wild, uncoordinated movement that wastes enormous energy without solving the actual problem. What if instead you took one breath? What if you assessed exactly what's happening before you react? That half-second pause allows you to respond with a specific solution rather than a general explosion of effort, and it saves you tremendous amounts of energy over the course of a round. Third, use structure instead of strength. Frames, angles, and alignment should hold weight, not your muscles. If you feel like you're holding on, something is off. Your skeleton is incredibly strong and requires zero energy to maintain. Your muscles, on the other hand, fatigue quickly under constant tension. Whenever possible, you want to use structural mechanics instead of muscular force. A proper frame uses bone alignment to create space. A correct angle makes you naturally difficult to control without requiring constant pushing. When you find yourself muscling through a position, that's a signal that your structure needs adjustment, not that you need to try harder. Breathing and tension. Here's an easy self-check during every roll. Are your shoulders tight? Is your jaw clenched? Are your hands death gripping? If the answer is yes, you're leaking energy. Breathe through your nose whenever possible. Relax parts of your body that aren't actively working. Elite grapplers look calm not because it's easy, but because tension is expensive. Global tension is one of the biggest energy drains for white belts. When you're stressed, your entire body tenses up, not just the parts actively working. Your shoulders hunch toward your ears, even though they're not involved in defending that pass. Your jaw clenches even though it has nothing to do with the current position. Your toes curl inside your shoes, even though they're completely irrelevant to what's happening. All of this represents wasted energy. Learning to relax everything that isn't directly involved in the current task is a skill that develops over time, but you can start practicing it immediately. During every roll, scan your body. Notice where you're holding unnecessary tension and consciously release it. Drop your shoulders. Unclench your jaw. Relax your grip slightly unless you're actively using it for something specific. Nasal breathing is both a diagnostic tool and a correction mechanism. If you can't breathe through your nose, you're too tense and need to dial back your effort. Forcing yourself to maintain nasal breathing puts a ceiling on your panic response and helps keep you in a more controlled state throughout the round. Intentional movement. Before you move, ask yourself one simple question. What problem am I trying to solve? If you can't answer that, don't move yet. High-level jiu-jitsu is patient. It allows the opponent to commit first. It waits for openings instead of forcing them. When you stop trying to win moments, your gas tank lasts longer and your technique improves faster. This represents a fundamental mindset shift from reactive to strategic. Most white belts exist in pure reaction mode. Their opponent does something, and they immediately respond with whatever movement feels instinctive. There's no analysis, no planning, no consideration of whether the movement will actually solve the problem. It's just constant motion driven by anxiety. Advanced practitioners are comfortable with stillness. They're willing to wait in a neutral position if it means their opponent will overcommit and create a real opportunity. They understand that forcing action often costs more energy than it generates in value. They've learned that every movement should have a purpose, and if you can't identify that purpose, you shouldn't move yet. This doesn't mean being passive or giving up positions. It means being deliberate. It means understanding that a half-second pause to assess the situation will lead to better decisions and more efficient energy use than immediate, unconsidered reactions. Practical focus for your next roll. On your very next roll, focus on just 3 things. Relax everything that isn't directly working. Let go of grips that aren't improving your position. Slow the round down instead of speeding it up. You'll still get tired, but it'll be controlled tired, not panicked exhaustion. And that's where real learning happens. These 3 focal points give you concrete actions to work on immediately. You don't need to overhaul your entire game. You just need to pay attention to these elements and make small adjustments as you roll. When you notice your shoulders creeping up, drop them. When you realize you've been crushing a collar grip for 20 seconds without doing anything with it, let it go and shake out your hand. When you feel the pace accelerating and your breathing getting ragged, deliberately slow things down. Pull guard into a more controlled position if you need to. Work from a more stable position. Do whatever it takes to bring the tempo back under your control. The exhaustion you feel will be different. Instead of that panicked, gasping, complete system failure feeling, you'll experience manageable tiredness. Your muscles will be fatigued from productive work. Your breathing will be elevated but controlled. Your mind will still be clear enough to learn from what just happened. This is where real improvement occurs. Jiu-Jitsu rewards patience, efficiency, and calm decision-making. If you learn how to stop wasting energy, you'll roll longer, think clearer, and improve faster. Train smarter, not harder.